Hello and welcome to another episode of World Awake TV. I'm your host Sky Cubby, and together we are dreaming the world awake. I'm here with Peter Maxwell Slattery, looking at beautiful Mount Adams at the ECETI Ranch. We've just had an amazing week of speakers, and I gotta say, one of my favorite speakers was you, Peter.
And he's here to help.
Well, many of us think UFOs are the stuff of fantasy, but an Australian man claims they are closer to reality than we think. Peter Maxwell Slattery says he's spotted them many times near his Albury home in New South Wales, and now he claims to have the proof. Peter joins us now. Good morning to you. Thanks for coming in.
Residual from that. Watch it, watch it, watch it, watch it, watch it, watch it, watch it.
I'm really blown away by the kind of things. I mean, we're seeing stuff in the sky. We're seeing ships, and we're seeing Merkaba light beings firing up on the mountain. We're seeing the misty stuff, as you call it.
Yeah, yeah.
And, you know, this is something that you are doing on the other side of the world in Australia as well. Can you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I've got ECETI Australia. So people can go to ecetiaustralia.org for more information on that. But basically it's about educating the public on the ET reality, which does eventually lead people to the consciousness aspect, which is really what it's all about. So I do sky watches, I also do readings, connecting people to their guide sessions as well, which is really a lot of the time other facets of themselves that coexist at the same time. So yeah, it's a lot of work that we're doing, documentaries. I'm working in sync with James Gilliland and a lot of other people around the world. So yeah, that's the type of stuff that we're going into.
Pretty exciting. Do you want to share what your books are about?
Yeah, so I've 3 books that I've done. I originally had 10 out, and I've pulled a few down to get revised, new editions basically. But the 3 major ones that are out now is the Book of Shiji 1, 2 and 3. And they were actually international bestsellers within 48 hours in 4 countries, each one when they came out. And it's been really well received. Now, what the information is about is a lot of what I know from my experiences, but they're channeled information in such a way that it's straight from this being called Shiji, which is the first. She started communicating with me when I was 7 years old through telepathy, prophecies, events, things before they happened. And I didn't really know what was going on at that time. I'd just tell my mum or my dad what was going to happen, and it would happen. I'd tell them, this lady's talking to me in my head. And so the books, later I found out who this being was, which is Shiji, this being from the Pleiades, and she started to automatically write through me.
Okay.
Now, with the books, it's not just her, it's a conglomerate of different beings or even soul facets that I'm connected to, all the way going up to what I call the geometric light realms, which would be, in my opinion, equating to like angelic type realms or light being realms. Everything's fractal, it's geometry.
Maybe like 12th, 10, 11, 12th dimensional.
Yeah, it's going right up there, because I go through a lot of like when I got taken there, you'll have different vibrations, densities that you'll see, like a tunnel, you're going through it, or you're swapping vibrations, which is again densities, and then bang, you pop into what I call this rainbow realm, and then you can sort of hone in on different frequencies within that. Again, I get taken there a lot. I probably have more interactions in those types of places rather than just with ETs, which the contact with the ETs led me to that, because that's what they're interacting with too. It's like basically it's the vibrational density coating around sources, the blueprint of source itself, and it comes out from that. And that's sort of like the way they explained it to me, and it's in these books as well. And again, I've experienced this, but the way to sort of show it is, if you can imagine my body is God, this universe, and each microscopic cell in it, that would be our oversoul, which is a cell of the overall collective. And what happens is we divide off like that, like a cell divides into, and we go fractal out through the planes and dimensions. Even the fractal parts can go fractal again. Like, it keeps going. So
it's like going home.
It is when you go through that. But when you leave that source blueprint, that's when you first go through these geometric light realms. So, for example, I wanted to not go there. I threw a lot of religion and the beings in it out, but what happened was I started having experiences with Metatron and Michael.
Okay.
And what they showed me was that Metatron is master of the electron, and in purest form, he's in every single electron at the same time, because they're symbiotic, they're all connected. And so these advanced beings, what they can do, and we sometimes see it with the Merkaba, they don't need to fly around or be in a craft like we do see them. Basically, they're swimming through electrons, is the way they showed it to me. But the advanced beings, they can break their light body form, or whatever form they want to take on, down to an electron, which is a negative charged subatomic particle. And because all electrons have a symbiotic relationship, they just instantaneously, through thought, pop out where they want to through that single electron and rebuild from the building blocks there.
It's kind of like Dr. Sala was just on the show, and he was talking about how we have mini black holes everywhere in our bodies, and that maybe that's how these beings can just bilocate or teleport anywhere in the or downstep their consciousness into. Basically, it shows us how everything is interconnected in one. Yeah,
definitely. And I was talking to Corey Good about that yesterday, because he brought up a similar thing to what you did, but he also brought up the electron with it. And I was just like, this is sort of, you put those two things together, we start to get this understanding, which is what this is about, is a unity in this conscious field. Because the more that we do that, the more we're going to connect dots. Like, me and Corey talking about that, I was just like, I wasn't aware of that. And so, yeah, it's amazing how this works, because we are one consciousness interacting with itself. Now, on such a larger scale, what they've shown me is that this is about experiencing and gaining knowledge in multiple ways that has to be different for the overall collective. And once we get to a certain level of consciousness, we can stay within this universe, or we could divide like a cell out from it and create our own universe, and again have cells, which would be souls, go out within us.
Souls. That's interesting.
Soul cells, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so basically, you can obtain enlightenment to the point where you can stay, or you can, pop out of this consciousness and create your own one, and then again, you'll be God with, all these cells in you, and then you repeat it again, but
above,
differently.
So below, and the fractal of as far out as we can see is as far small as we can see as well. That's interesting. But just to bring it down into this dimension, I mean, you of all people are capturing these amazing images of these. What we have. I was walking over here thinking about the beings that are manifesting onto film for you.
Yeah.
That is a phenomenon that's been happening for a while with you, and it's something that when I was walking over here, I was realizing it hasn't really happened on this planet since the ancient Taoist times, from a collective standpoint, these stories we hear about. So it's really an exciting time. Can you share with our audience a little bit about like what these images are all about?
Well, I think it comes down to multiple things. I'd done the self-work. Now, I was wild in my younger years and all that. I was a rap artist for a while, and when these experiences started up, they always happened, but I had high strangeness and a few sightings here and there. But when it got crazy again, like, in 2010 I filmed a heap of UFOs that ended up on the news in Australia. Now I've done a lot of television around the world about these sorts of things, but I did the work. And what I mean by I did the work, for about 3 years I did about 12 hours a day of intense meditation and remote viewing at the same time.
Wow, so you really activated that pineal gland and opened up your centers.
I did a lot of work because I was trying to figure out what was going on, and I knew it had a spiritual aspect to it, and they were talking to me about this. Like, the beings started, I had 6 months of physical contact. Not daily, it was sometimes once a week, once every 2 weeks.
What was that like? Did they come to you, or did you go get beamed up, or how
well,
did that work?
originally started, so what I started to see was, in terms of high strangeness, objects would move, I'd see things dart around the house, and then again, like I've been talking about over the weekend, I started to see these blue orbs. Very similar to Corey's story. Talking to Corey yesterday, it started for him around the same time it started for me. And see, I was in the public eye about it pretty much straight away, because I bought out a book about 6 months after it. So I was talking about this beforehand, but the thing is, I released details he didn't know, or that people didn't know, about how it operates, you know, certain things. And talking to him, he knows those things. That's what's tripped me out talking to him. But these blue orbs would start to appear. Now, they look like they come in many shapes and sizes. What I was commonly seeing was blue orbs about the size of a baseball, and they look like liquid blue, light blue. But yeah, that's what started happening, was these blue orbs would be coming in the house. Now, the first time there was like a white light went like this, and it stayed for like maybe 2 seconds, and the blue orb came through it. And
did the orbs look like what we're seeing through the infrared and the night vision? Similar in shape, but bigger. Sort
of similar, but what you get
they look spherical, huh?
Yeah, and they're emanating light. They're different from what we're seeing here, but what we see here a lot of the time, I'm calling wispies or the misty stuff, because it's just, these could be like that, but it's a different type of intelligence, and also it's not fully manifested yet.
It's dimensionalizing into form where you're seeing with your naked eye.
And people I've had over 300 witnesses to date. That have been in my presence in my home when this has happened, from investigators, TV crews, all sorts of things. And then again at the Skywatchers, not that I've just done in Australia, but around the world, I've had thousands of people now. And the thing is with my footage and with the Skywatchers, most of it's during the day, broad daylight, with, 50 to 200 people about. And, people are experiencing this. Some have contacted these beforehand, some leave and get that spiritual connection later on. And it's like they had to do it in a group setting first to sort of be eased into it. But yeah, I started to see these liquid blue balls of light, and then eventually they started to manifest into these 7-foot tall light beings, which they later showed me. Now, the way it was expressed to me was that they were the Elohim, which is connected to our God self, our highest expression, and that I'm a part of them. But then I found out later we all are. It's like a higher aspect of all ourselves.
So it's about channeling our higher self, and it just so happens that since you had some soul agreements to bring this through maybe earlier than some of us, to kind of usher in, because this is happening for how long now?
This has been happening basically on a daily basis for around 10 years now. But it happened on and off all before. Like, I was having sightings, I was seeing I started to see extraterrestrials, or this race called the Guardians, between the ages of 8 and 12 after the telepathy. The telepathy stayed, but after I also met the Elohim was when I had my first interaction with Shiji physically, and that's where the physical contact started up for 6 months.
Is Shiji a collective? Do other people tune into Shiji?
Yes, other people have now had contact with her. What I later found out, as crazy as it sounds, was that I'm an aspect of her. So these are physical...
Like a soul group, Yeah. I have to say that we've been doing a lot of meditations around here, and yesterday a being came through, and I saw its face, and I said, "Who are you?" Because I'm learning to ask questions more, be discerning, and that's how we get the answers, like a shamanic journey. You ask, and you keep going to the next frame, and it said Shiji.
Yeah,
and
interesting.
And so, I feel such a kindred, brotherly connection with you. Perhaps we're part of the same soul group,
sort of thing.
All here, now to help out, and a lot of us do belong to the same soul groups.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm finding more and more also, and it's just people finding that out on their journey, if they're meant to, or however it's going to work for their Earth human experience. So it's coming together.
These images you're seeing, these are images that you've actually taken with your camera. When do you whip out your camera? Because
I've always got one on me.
And do you feel something?
Yeah. So it's a mixed bag, man. Because what's a mixed bag is, with a lot, I've even got videos of grey aliens. Now, the thing that the viewers need to know as well, these have been analysed by multiple sources. Sometimes, a lot of the times, there's witnesses to even the photos or videos that I've got. So it's not just me there at the time. But it's a mixed bag, and what I mean by that...
Multiple cameras as well.
Yeah,
right?
So sometimes I'll have like 5 cameras there, and I'm filming the same craft on 5 different cameras, and it's been analysed by Jason Gleaves, who's ex-UK Air Force Aerospace, who's got UFO only.
Wow.
Homi Massan's group with Tersa Millennia. 2 different, I don't know if they're stations or TV programs in Japan. The Australian News has analysed them. So we've got multiple sources worldwide that have analysed the originals, and pretty much all the photos of the beings have been analysed by 1 or 2 people every time with those.
See, this guy's legit. I'm telling you, this is one of the most amazing things happening right now, because we're seeing these images that you're seeing right now, and now a lot of beings have come to you here at the ranch, right? You want to talk about any that have happened recently, and maybe we can share the image if it's up on your site.
Yeah, there's one of Kuan Yin that I took here. Now that was really weird. Yeah, I think I was just watching the computer. I was watching something, or I had like a radio podcast playing, and I've just looked up, and at the end of the bed, what I first saw was a blinking white light, and then it started to become more of a solid white light, and there was like rays. You know, when you look at the sun and you get those rays, and then all of a sudden she's appeared, and her hand was where the orb was. Now, talking to James, there's something about her and an elixir or something, her carrying the living light.
She carries, that's how she's been seen in the past. Like I was saying, this stuff hasn't been really seen or depicted since the ancient Taoist times, where there's these images of her holding this elixir.
Well, which I had no idea.
Oh, yeah.
And that's where the orb was. So, like, that appeared before her. So that could have even been like some type of teleportation device. I'm not saying that because I think she's at the point where, like, when you get to Ascended Master Point, that's the electron thing I was talking about. But there's something about that, because I told James, and he goes, well, it looks like she was holding an elixir in her hand or something like that. And I was just like, what's that?
Well, it's so white. You can see on this image, it's so bright that I think you can't really see maybe the vessel was white. It was kind of whited out behind it.
Yeah, but, and she just turned, and it wasn't a smile, it wasn't a smirk, but it was sort of in between.
Mona Lisa type.
Sort of like that, and then she just blinked out, man. That was it.
That seems like a similar thing you hear about when angels appear, where beings appear. There's almost like an opening in the fabric of space, and they dimensionalize in like that.
Definitely, and I think what's happening is, I've been talking about it with you, and with the talks I've done, is I see this misty stuff everywhere. Now, sometimes if you turn off a light in a room and you're in darkness, you can see this sort of I guess slight mist. It's almost like watching a 70s coloured television. It's a little bit hazy compared to 4K high definition.
Well, you saw this on a big scale out in the field there.
Yeah, so about 100 feet maybe out there, broad daylight. I had a couple of people with me. This purple blue mist started to materialise. I've got it on videos you saw during the presentation, and that's the craft. Now, what is really weird that I came out about, I've talked to the King in Australia about this and some Native American elders as well, is that the crafts, in my opinion, probably 90% of the time plus, including the extraterrestrials, and James saw this at my place when he came and lived with me for 3 months in Australia, they will look like a mist before they fully materialise. So like an apparition, like a ghost. And so that is a byproduct. So any being can appear like that. We could appear like that before we break through into another density. So it could be nature spirits, elementals, extraterrestrials, earth beings, spirit guides. We've got a whole different range of things that they can appear as like an apparition or mist before they materialise. Now, what I've spoken to the elders about was, what I noticed was that they will land a craft on me or a group, which I've got photos of, like the mist coming through.
Down, you were saying around
you. It will land on you. It will be a slight mist, or sometimes starting to materialise. So basically, the craft will look like a ghost. The sound of the environment will change. Sometimes you'll hear like going on.
We heard that.
We heard it.
The freer, whoa, 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 whoa. That was powerful.
Yeah.
Recorded that? How did that sound?
So that was an example of what can happen, because it's not what people think, and the beings will look like apparitions too, but that sound, I was doing a CE5 event at Mount Buffalo in Australia, which is an ancient place that I've been going to since a child, and having contacts in later years where I'll get more physical contact out there. The beings will tell me that, in another place I won't reveal, where there's more, where I do have interactions with them at times. And so that weekend we done a CE5, and that night I thought they're going to come and see us tonight. So
will you explain to the audience what a CE5 is?
a CE5 it stands for Close Encounter of the Fifth Kind, which is where you actually, through consciousness and intent, you put out the intention to connect with otherworldly beings. And this can be done individually or as a group. And I mainly start focusing on it as a group because we're going to go to a place now as a civilization doing it as a group. You know what I mean? So we've got the individual aspect of contact, but then we want to be able to do it as a civilization. And so, you know, James has been doing this, how long I've been alive. Greece started a little bit after that. So, and now we've got these groups all around the world, which is great. So, like, they're classified CE1 up to 5, and then 1's like, you know, seeing a UFO, 2 seeing the occupants, you know, up close. The 3 is actually on board. So it goes up and up. But we're doing an event out there. I left the infrared camera on in the lounge room, and what you see is, or you start to hear, is the whoomp, 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 and 3 orbs come in, and they're blinking in time to the sound of the vibration.
Wow.
And some of the crafts I've been on, they're just like a big orb with just orbs in it.
And
there's nothing else to
what
it.
Corey describes as orbs from the smallest size, like you're describing a softball size, all the way up to planetary size.
Gigantic ones. And so when you're in that, yeah, it's just, but that's pretty much, yeah, what happened that's how I got the video. I can't remember much. You can hear on the video, there's some mumbling, and it's like we're talking about something is about to happen.
Well,
but yeah.
We're seeing such a thin spectrum. We've known, as some of you who wish this stuff was taught in high school, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That you know, recognize at that time that we see such a narrow bandwidth that when we see these things start to come in, it's about tweaking our consciousness a little bit so that we can see them, and also using tools that we have like the infrared and the night vision is helpful. But yeah, this cloud that was out in the field during your presentation there was no misty kind of clouds,
no fire,
condensation.
it was warm weather.
And then all of a sudden it manifests, and then all of a sudden you're describing it, there it goes, and you knew it was going to dematerialize, and this cloud that looked like a craft just dematerialized.
And it was just a purple and blue mist. It was pretty cool, because that's what I see a lot of the time. I'll see, you know, whether it's apparitions, ghosts, intelligent spirit forms, or extraterrestrials, whatever the case may be. I do see that everywhere, and I've got it, you know, a lot of times on camera and video as well. So that was great for me to film that here, because I'm like, this is what I talk about. Even just like the extraterrestrial I got on video, I was talking about how I always see this something darting out of the room. And I left that camera there on the dining room table, filmed that, the extraterrestrial as well, that you've seen in the presentation. And there's a photo of the Pleiadian that I've got as well. But it seems to be that it's meeting them halfway. It's all about the conscious aspect. So that's the biggest tool that we've got, is our intention. I say to people, why are you doing it? Because when you get into this, your life can completely change. It's going to be broken down to be rebuilt, aligned with where you're at. And so we've got to look at, you know, I think now as a civilization, things that we can do. Like, one big thing I do every morning is I put on affirmations when I get up, just on YouTube. I let it play in the background and like re-brainwash myself in a way to positive thinking.
These kind of things, like we were talking about, haven't been seen since ancient times, when we didn't have this frequency grid around the planet, when we didn't have EMFs and all this. So we really need to, as we wake up, do as much as we can to stack the odds in our favor, to be able to, as we're peering through, to be able to allow them to show themselves more. So it's about doing the work, like you said, but is there a prime directive of non-intervention, and where is the threshold between which they're willing to show up?
We're going to see a slow, it can be either a quick disclosure or a slow one. Now, I'm warning people that it's going to be the truth wrapped in a lie to start off with. It's going to be like a burrito.
Like we're kind of seeing with the mainstream media, bringing out all this, the same videos Jordan was showing about the UFOs, because they want to control the narrative.
Yeah. Or basically it's going to be besides the slow rollout, we could join together overnight and change this overnight, instantaneously. Now, I think it's going to be a mixture of the two, that once we get through a certain stage, it's going to be the collective realising what's going on. And all these frequencies around us, they've been there to block us from multidimensional mind and experience. And so we've just got to look at things about what we can do individually. What can we do to, be the change that you want to see? That's what it comes down to. And everything's a projection from within. So if you change the mindset, that's going to project outside of yourself. But there are things that we have to do, like healthy eating, exercise, meditation, certain things, whatever it is that works for you, that's what we've got to be doing, because it all does come down to the conscious aspects. And from there, we can make a change.
There was a speaker talking about, I forget his name, he was the whistleblower coming out from the Vatican.
Oh, Michael Letworth.
Yeah. And he was talking about how the primal, this is my own words, but the primal life force currents that naturally would flow through us as far as our being heart chakra center oriented has been manipulated throughout time. And so there's a lot of challenging things to get through, but as you do the work and meditate, and like we just did a little session together, and it's so simple. I mean, connecting, maybe focusing on one point and experiencing our higher self and asking questions and listening
because I'll come back through thought. It's like having a conversation with yourself, and that's where the guides and spirits and extraterrestrials, that's their medium. The universal language is thought. And so a lot of the time they'll use your own thought to communicate with you, because that way it's like absorbable for you to understand it, to absorb that information. Where if it was, like some of the physical contacts I've had, for a lot of people, they just couldn't deal with it. We can deal with it, but it's got to be either an overnight thing, like instantaneously, but that's not going to happen for a while until after the rollout, the start of the rollout. So it's slowly going to be an introduction to these other civilizations, but the other aspect is the multidimensional aspect, the spiritual aspect, and that's where really some big things, it makes the ET stuff look very minimal, even though it's beautiful. We're all one consciousness, we've got all these planets, star systems, but once you understand the multidimensional aspect, it opens that up, tenfold.
Well, you look like a fit guy, and so as you work out your external body, you're doing the inner workout as well, and that's it's like a muscle. You build it, and it starts opening up more and more. So is there any other technique or any other thing you can offer to our audience of what people can do to help with their own connection? Yeah,
one thing I would recommend is doing some type of energy clearing. So, some people imagine themselves engulfed in whatever coloured light. After doing that, what we sort of just did, just the gist of it, was calling in other aspects. So calling in the guides and the other aspects of yourself and your higher self. And then after that, what you can do is just ask for a blessing from the original spirits, nature spirits, elementals, all that's in line with the awakening and healing process. Ask for any parasitic thought forms, cords, attachments, these sorts of things to be removed. And then what you'll notice is you invite the guides in after that, and there'll start to be an energy sensation. Now, certain guides or extraterrestrials, whatever, when they come through, there's usually an energy signature. So what's happening is their light body's hitting your light body, and there'll be a static or a heat sensation or a tingling, feather tickling sort of sensation on a certain part. Taking notice of that, and then through thought, it's like remote viewing. It's like, all right, who are you? What do you look like? So you get a vision. Some people may not get a visual, but they'll get a thought about it or feel the energies. And then it's like, all right, who are you? What's your name? They may give you a reference, a symbol. Then you go into, all right, why have you come through? How are we connected? It's like a conversation with someone. So it's sort of like, what would you do when you meet somebody? What do they look like? What's their name? Where are they from? Find out a little bit
basic stuff like they talk about in remote viewing, establishing that baseline. But do you feel like imagination can lead into?
Yes, and I'll tell you why. In the other realms, imagination is creation. And we're told imagination is this fairy tale. No. The places I go, the beings I interact with and hang out with, they can manifest through thought, even their crafts. So using the imagination is a key component for that, because they meet you in that place in your mind's eye.
If we live in an infinite universe, then as we are creating these powerful thought forms, being the mini scalar generators we are, then it's hard for us to believe, but at a certain level, those are creations.
Exactly. This is all done through thought, through an awareness.
The higher mind created all this.
Yeah.
And once you get into that space where you realize there's no time, all potential realities exist now, and we're dancing our way through what the reality that we believe to be the reality. How does Bashar put it? The reality that we're experiencing is that which we believe most to be true.
Exactly. And this is where taking notice of your thoughts, like I said, like as we're receiving thoughts or information through, whether it's our mind's eye, imagination, whatever the case may be, that is the same data stream that you reverse that information. So when you're receiving, push a thought back, because what you're going to get is a dialogue. And that's what they've really worked with me now. See, it's bigger than what people think, because even the extraterrestrials are trying to get to these and are interacting with these light realms I speak of.
It's a conversation, and you have to let the transmission come through before you can communicate. It's like learning how to communicate properly, where you're not talking over, projecting all your own thoughts over what you're wanting to be open to receive. It's important.
Or a one-way conversation. Because so many people go, I get a download, and that's cool, because this is how it happens. But on the same token, you can have a dialogue. So all the time, how many people out there, and it was the same was happening to me, you'd be receiving transmissions, and then you're left with, geez, I wonder what that's about, I'd like to know about this. At the time those transmissions are happening, push a thought back, like start to get a dialogue, and through thought, through mind to mind, you'll start getting this dialogue going on. Those that are sensitive may see energy apparitions around them, they may feel the energy, they may even just want to shut their eyes and they'll start to see something. So that's multidimensional communication, and it's instantaneously, like by the time you've pushed out the question, you've already received the answer coming back in. You know what I mean? It's like that's the next step. Instead of just receiving now, let's meet them halfway and have a dialogue through thought.
Well, that's where telepathy comes in, because I hear about these people that do telepathy with these higher dimensional beings, these extraterrestrials, and they are having instantaneous communication. In fact, Corey talks about how he was trained to go in and have maybe 10 different questions, and the ET's answering them all simultaneously.
Yeah,
so
that's very true.
This is leading to our ability to get our telepathy back.
It is, and like you're saying, it's like if you stop going to the gym, right, for an example that I use, and then you go back, after a few sessions, you got muscle memory, so you start to tone up again. These are abilities that, with whatever vessel we're in, human body, computer, whatnot, the more that we're doing exercises, psychic exercises, energy work, what's happening is we're tuning back into those senses that are always there but sort of dormant, not being used to their full potential, because a lot are unaware of it. So the more that we play mind tricks, like how many people know who's calling them on the phone, you know, even little things like that, this is exercising those abilities again to where they can be just as good as, you know, the muscles that we work out with.
I'm training my daughter early on, and we play psychic games, sending shapes to each other.
That's pretty cool.
She's a lot better at it than me. But you know what's amazing me at this event is that people are seeing all this incredible stuff in the sky, and all the ET aspect is there, but people are hungry for developing themselves. That people recognize now that it's time to clear our shit and get down to what we're really here for, and they know that it has a lot to do with being in integrity, doing our inner work, and that's pretty rare in this world to see, you know.
But it's happening.
It's happening.
It's happening. Yeah. It's taken years to get to that point, but the good sign is, it's actually happening. So, well, you know, yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing what you have, and for being part of it and giving in the way you do. I know you just came out from Australia. You're out here for 2 months?
Oh, nearly 3 months, and I've got to head back in a few days, but I'm coming back and forth quite a bit. Yeah,
so
I love it here.
Please give your information out so you can get a hold of Peter's amazing work.
And thank you for what you're doing too, and the viewers as well. Everyone's a part of this, so it's just exciting times. But if people want to find out more, just go to petermaxwellslattery.com or ECETIaustralia.org. And everything's there for people to see, and check it out. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
No
Peter.
worries, man. Thank you so much, and keep up the good work, man.
Absolutely.
Awesome energies and vibes, everyone.
Okay. Just remember, together we are dreaming the world awake, and bye for now.
it's like when you feel so tight, and when it's like when it's getting loose. I wanna be your only friend.